Nice foldy that shows you all the rules that we've been working with. So we're going to go through those and we're going to do a couple of examples. And then I'm going to let you get going either on the odds or on the pumpkin paper. So we're actually going to do these first two first. These are the first two that we learned. Let me zoom in a little bit. The product property says what? If we are multiplying like bases, whether they're letters or they're numbers, what do we need to do with these exponents? We're going to add them. So an example of that down here, what would we get? X to the 5 times x to the 7. We're going to add 5 plus 7 and we get x to the 12. And some of you are getting to a point you don't need to write this step. When you get to that pumpkin paper, I suggest you do because there's a lot of things going on there. This would be 2 plus 4, we get g to the 6. What's missing on number 3? There is a 1 here, so this is d to the 9. So we're feeling pretty good about the product property, yes? So then in like manner, just the opposite, we have the quotient property. And what do we do when we're dividing? We're going to subtract. And remember, the numerator goes first, the denominator goes second. So we would write this one out as 7 minus 3, we get x to the 4. Okay? Don't write 3 minus 7. That's going to mess everything up, right? 8 minus 5, you should get p to the 3. And 9 minus 3, you should get v to the 6. Yes, do we feel okay about the quotient property? All right. Then we learned raising power to a power. We did these two rules. Power of a power and power of a product. Okay? So a power of a power just says you're going to distribute. So we're going to say m times n. And based on our order of operations that we learned in 5th and 6th grade, we know that if we have this, we have to do it before we can do this, right? We think about PEMDAS. So here we're just multiplying. You should get x to the 6, f to the 28, and this is c to the 10th, not the 7th. Don't add, you need to multiply. Feeling good about that? We're just distributing. And then on this rule, same concept, but we're going to put some 1s here. And you're distributing on everything inside that parentheses, right? So even if these weren't 1s, if they were 2s or 3s or whatever value, you would multiply. So if this was a 2, we would write 6. If this was a 3, we would write 9, okay? Does anyone have any questions about how these work? In like manner, we also talked when we did this one, if you had division and it's all in a parentheses, you would distribute to the denominator as well. The last two rules we did were the negative exponent and the exponent of 0. We said a negative exponent is less than 1. So we have to put a 1 in the numerator. We're going to move this to the denominator, but our exponent becomes a positive. If I have a negative exponent, it goes in the denominator. If I have a negative exponent in my denominator, it's going to go to the numerator, right? So we can say 1 over x to the 4th, 1 over n squared, 1 over a to the 7th. And that was what we did in 19.2. We also did in 19.2, we also did to the 0 power is 1. So this last part is super hard. If you are having trouble remembering, then keep in mind what we know about PEMDAS. You are still following order of operations, but if you have a parentheses or an exponent, you're going to multiply. If you're multiplying, you're going to add. If you're dividing, you're going to subtract. Okay, so we're still technically doing that. If you're going to look at the pumpkin paper, I've done the first one for you, and you can see how I've written out my steps. That may be something you want to try to employ, just so you can make sure that you know what you're doing. So I boxed all of my base of 3. These are in my numerator, so I know I need to add them, right? A -1 plus 4, those are my numerators. This is a denominator, so I need to subtract it. And I know a -1 and a +4 is 3, and 3 minus 2 is a +1. So my 3 to the +1, positive exponents go in the numerator. Then I did my 5s. Well, I have 5 to the 0. I know that is a 1. It kind of just disappears. So I have a 2 and a 3. I'm dividing, so I'm going to subtract them. 2 minus 3 is a -1, so I know that goes in the denominator. Okay? So take your time when you get to this pumpkin paper. Does anyone have any questions?